Hey guys, we're on to part 2 of my new platform tutorial series. Now we're gonna be putting in some backdrops for the player to make the level, basically. So first thing you want to do is insert object, and you're probably familiar with the backdrop object, but I'm not going to use that because in platforming games it's a lot more convenient to use the quick backdrop object, which instead of getting bigger when you expand it, it instead repeats itself when you expand it. So if you see, if I change the type to modif under this settings tab here, and then I click on this, let me zoom in real quick, you'll see that if I expand it, it doesn't get bigger, it just repeats itself, which is great for making platforms and stuff for him to stand on without having to remake the graphic every single time you want to make a different length of platform. So I'm going to keep it as X's. You can double click on it and change it if you want to, but I'm just going to keep it as X's. So let's start off by putting this on the bottom and then extending it out to reach across the whole level. Now, first thing we want to do is go to conditions and new condition, and now we're doing collisions, and we do not another object, you do backdrop. So now if he collides with the background, movement stop. So now if we press F7, he doesn't collide with it. That's because right now the background is at its default type, which is none, which is meant for scenery, so obviously the player cannot collide with it. So if we go to the runtime options here, and click on the obstacle type here, and we want to change it to obstacle. So now I want to get you familiar with different obstacle types, so let me clone this a few times. And first I'll make the platform object, and then of course a background object. So change that to none, then scroll down, we get to here, and change this to a ladder, and we'll make that a little bit longer to make it more ladder-like. So now let's press F7 and test these out. As you can see, the obstacle, what the obstacle does is the object collides with it no matter what. None is obviously, like I told you, it's a scenery, so you don't collide with it at all. Platform, you collide with the top, but actually let me put it down a little bit because I can't jump that high. You collide with the top of it so that you can jump on it and stuff, but if you go on it from the bottom, you can get onto it. So that's really great for like games where you're like jumping up and down and stuff like that, jumping to different places. That's very useful. And then obviously the ladder, you climb it, and then you can have a climbing animation and make it look a little bit more realistic. You could climb a little bit and jump off. So that's your different sceneries, your different background objects you can use. I'm gonna delete this one because now I want to show you a very exciting part of the tutorial, which is making it look a little bit more 3D. So first thing we want to do is go over here to storyboard editor, and we want to make our level 10 times longer, so that we want to make it a side-scrolling game. And the next thing we want to do is we want to make it so that the player scrolls with the screen. So if we go back to our conditions, new condition, the player, and actually no, not the player, always, and then we go under our storyboard controls and scrollings, center window position in frame, and then click here and put it in the middle, and then press OK. So now we've got that. Now we've got that, so let me press F7. 7. Wait. Now I have 7. Okay. uh, so now we've got that. And now if we go over here, you see, we move. But we have to actually drag out that little floor here so it goes across the whole level and doesn't drop off right there. So let's drag it out a little bit. This is a really long level. You can make it however long you want. If you don't want it to be that long, you can always make it different. So now I've got that. Now onto the 3D part, which is the fun part I was telling you about. So let's insert a new object. Again, we're doing a quick backdrop object. You'll pretty much only use quick backdrop objects when you do platforming games. So we'll keep it at none because it's a background. And we want to change the type to modif, obviously. And instead of this, I'm just going to quickly make a little cloud thing so it looks a little bit more like a scenery. So let's make it 500 by 500. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Okay, that's good. Now if we extend this a little bit, and then we drag it out across the frame, we have a little cloud background. But the problem is right now, it's in front of everything, so you can't see anything else. So, other than doing order, I'm actually going to do a different thing, which is view, and you go to toolbars, and now check layers toolbar. It might already be checked if you used it before, but the default is unchecked, so you won't see it if move this thing over here. You won't see it if you haven't used it before. So now we want to press Control X to cut this, insert a new layer, put it there. V. But now we want to put this over here so that this layer is in front, and now we can see it. But another thing we want to do to make it, which is the 3D part, is click on the layer, and then go over here to your properties. There's only one tab for this, and what we want to worry about is the scrolling options. X coefficient, Y coefficient. Don't worry about the Y coefficient unless your game goes, you scroll up and down in your game, but in this case the up and down is the same as the window, so we don't have to worry about the Y coefficient. So let's change the X coefficient to 0.2. So now, if we test the frame here, and I start to move over, the clouds move at a different speed than everything else, so it looks like more 3D. And then to make it even better, in your game, you could add lots of layers. Like you could have mountains, and then you could have little bushes and stuff that are smaller, and you get smaller and smaller, and you just change the X coefficient. The higher the X coefficient, the faster it is. But if you put it more than 1, then it actually goes faster than what these guys are doing. So I would try to keep it lower unless for some reason you want that. So that's it for this tutorial. Next tutorial will be making enemies and giving them artificial intelligence, or AI. Okay, see you in the next part 3. Okay, bye now.